Good morning. Good morning. I want to lick my lips the whole time. A little dry. Mm-hmm. What's up? I'm your girl, Pastor Courage Molina of Bold Faith Community Church. Welcome to Mornings in the Word. This is day 83. I will be reading Joshua chapters 5 through 8 in the New Living Translation. If you want to build the daily habit of being in the Word of God, this is a great place for you to be. Go ahead and click that subscribe button. If you're always here, go ahead and hit that like button. And be sure. I speak English sometimes, to share this with a friend. You guys can be like accountability partners. You guys can build a community. Okay, did you watch today? Did you listen today? Did you read today? What was your greatest takeaway? Have some conversation, take it to the next level, just beyond reading. And if you don't have a community, then why don't you join our community? You can go to boldfaithchurch.org, right, and get connected, get plugged in. Okay, all right, let's get into it. Chapter 5. This is after they crossed the Jordan River. When all the Amorite kings west of the Jordan and all the Canaanite kings who lived along the Mediterranean coast heard how the Lord had dried up the Jordan River so the people of Israel could cross, they lost heart and were paralyzed with fear because of them. At that time, the Lord told Joshua, "Make flint knives and circumcise this second generation of Israelites." So Joshua made flint knives and circumcised the entire male population of Israel at Gibeath Haraloth. Listen, and we know that there were 40,000 that came from east of the Jordan. 40,000 just from that side that went over with them. Wow. It's a lot of circumcising. Verse 4, Joshua had to circumcise them because all the men who were old enough to fight in battle when they left Egypt had died in the wilderness. Those who left Egypt had all been circumcised, but none of those born after the Exodus during the years in the wilderness had been circumcised. The Israelites had traveled in the wilderness for 40 years until all the men who were old enough to fight in battle when they left Egypt had died. For they had disobeyed the Lord, and the Lord vowed he would not let them enter the land he had sworn to give us, a land flowing with milk and honey. So Joshua circumcised their sons, those who had grown up to take their father's places, for they had not been circumcised on the way to the promised land. After all the males had been circumcised, they rested in the camp until they were healed. Then the Lord said to Joshua, "Today I have rolled away the shame of your slavery in Egypt." So that place has been called Gilgal to this day. While the Israelites were camped at Gilgal on the plains of Jericho, they celebrated Passover on the evening of the 14th day of the first month. The very next day, they began to eat unleavened bread and roasted grain harvested from the land. No manna appeared on the day they first ate from the crops of the land, and it was never seen again. So from that time on, the Israelites ate from the crops of Canaan. When Joshua was near the town of Jericho, he looked up and saw a man standing in front of him with a sword in hand. Joshua went up to him and demanded, "Are you a friend or foe?" "Neither one," he replied. "I am the commander of the Lord's army." At this, Joshua fell with his face to the ground in reverence. "I am at your command," Joshua said. "What do you want your servant to do?" The commander of the Lord's army replied, "Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy." And Joshua did as he was told. Chapter 6. Now the gates of Jericho were tightly shut up because the people were afraid of the Israelites, so no one was allowed to go out or in. But the Lord said to Joshua, "I have given you Jericho, its king, and all its strong warriors. You and your fighting men should march around the town once a day for 6 days. 7 priests will walk ahead of the ark, each carrying a ram's horn. On the 7th day, you are to march around the town 7 times." So once a day for 6 days, and then on the 7th day, 7 times around. And they're going to have the ram's horns. On the 7th day, you are to march around 7 times with the policemen. When you hear the priest, verse 5, when you hear the priest give one long blast on the ram's horn, have all the people shout as loud as they can. Then the walls of the town will collapse, and the people can charge straight into the town. So Joshua called together the priests and said, "Take up the ark of the Lord's covenant and assign 7 priests to walk in front of it, each carrying a ram's horn." When he gave orders to the people, he gave orders to the people, "March around the town, and the armed men will lead the way in front of the ark of the Lord." After Joshua spoke to the people, the 7 priests with the ram's horns started marching in the presence of the Lord, blowing the horns as they marched, and the ark of the Lord's covenant followed behind them. Some of the armed men marched in front of the priests with the horns, and some of the armed men marched in front of the priests. No, wait. And some of the armed men marched behind the ark, with the priests continually blowing the horns. "Do not shout, do not even talk," Joshua commanded. "Not a single word from any of you until I tell you to shout. Then shout." So the ark of the Lord was carried around the town once that day, and then everyone returned to spend the night in camp. I want you to understand that they're not just walking around like a fence or like a football field, right? I want you to understand that this is an entire town. The town, what's on the inside of those gates, is enough to sustain the people. People don't have to leave to get the things they need. They don't need to leave to go to the grocery store, to get their horse and buggy fixed, to get weapons, to get their harvest, to do any of that. That's all included in this town that they have, right? In this big gate, right? This big wall. That's what it is. It's a wall. And this big wall that surrounds the town. So that means they spent all day. These men, these soldiers got dressed. They got their battle stuff on. The priests are blowing the entire time, just making this music, right, to the Lord. Everybody else is quiet. They're silent. They're not allowed to talk. They walk around the entire town, around the entire wall. And then at night, so that lets you know that it took them all day to do it. And then at night, they went back to the camp. Joshua got up early the next morning. Early. So it's early in the morning till nighttime. Joshua got up early the next morning, and the priests again carried the ark of the Lord. The 7 priests with the ram's horns marched in front of the ark of the Lord, blowing their horns. Again, the armed men marched both in front of the priests with their horns and behind the ark of the Lord. All this time, the priests were blowing their horns. On the second day, they again marched around the town once and returned to camp. They followed this pattern for 6 days. Getting up early, the priests, the armed men, the Ark of the Covenant, going around back to the camp. They followed that pattern for 6 days. On the 7th day, the Israelites got up at dawn and marched around the town as they had done before. But this time they went around the town 7 times. The 7th time around, as the priests sounded the long blast on their horns, Joshua commanded the people, "Shout, for the Lord has given you the town. Jericho and everything in it must be completely destroyed as an offering to the Lord. Only Rahab the prostitute and the others in her house will be spared, for she protected our spies. Do not take any of the things set apart for destruction, or you yourselves will become completely destroyed, and you will bring trouble on the camp of Israel. Everything made from silver, gold, bronze, or iron is sacred to the Lord and must be brought into his treasury." When the people heard the sound of the ram's horns, they shouted as loud as they could. Suddenly, the walls of Jericho collapsed, and the Israelites charged straight into the town and captured it. They completely destroyed everything in it with their swords: men and women, young and old, cattle, sheep, goats, and donkeys. Meanwhile, Joshua said to the 2 spies, "Keep your promise. Go to the prostitute's house and bring her out along with all her family." The men who had been spies went in and brought out Rahab, her father, mother, brother, and all other relatives who were with her. They moved her whole family to a safe place near the camp of Israel. Then the Israelites burned the town and everything in it. Only the things made from silver, gold, bronze, or iron were kept for the treasury of the Lord's house. So Joshua spared Rahab the prostitute and her relatives who were with her in the house, because she had hidden the spies Joshua sent to Jericho, and she lives among the Israelites to this day. At that time, Joshua invoked this curse: "May the curse of the Lord fall on anyone who tries to rebuild the town of Jericho. At the cost of his firstborn son, he will lay its foundation. At the cost of his youngest son, he will set up its gates." So the Lord was with Joshua, and his reputation spread through the land. Chapter 7. I mean, that's really good. There's so much to be said there, so much to be seen there. If you've never studied the book of Joshua, take some time, study the book of Joshua. It is absolutely amazing. You can go to boldfaithchurch.org and get some Bible study guides that could help you to get through the Word of God. All right, chapter 7. But Israel violated the instructions. But Israel violated the instructions about the things set apart for the Lord. A man named Achan had stole some of these dedicated things, so the Lord was very angry with the Israelites. Achan was the son of Carmi, a descendant of Zimri, son of Zerah, and the tribe of Judah. Joshua sent some of his men from Jericho to spy out the town of Ai, east of Bethel, near Beth-aven. When they returned, they told Joshua, "There's no need for all of us to go up there. It won't take more than 2,000 or 3,000 men to attack Ai. Since they are so few of them, don't make all our people struggle to go up there." So approximately 3,000 warriors were sent, but they were soundly defeated. The men of Ai chased the Israelites from the town gate as far as the quarries, and they killed about 36 who were retreating down the slope. The Israelites were paralyzed with fear at this turn of events, and their courage melted away. Joshua and the elders of Israel tore their clothing in dismay, threw dust on their heads, and bowed face down to the ground before the ark of the Lord until evening. Then Joshua cried out, "O sovereign Lord, why did you bring us across the Jordan River if you are going to let the Amorites kill us? If only we had been content to stay on the other side. Lord, what can I say now that Israel has fled from its enemies? For when the Canaanites and all the other people living in the land hear about it, they will surround us and wipe our name off the face of the earth. And then what will happen to the honor of your great name?" But the Lord said to Joshua, "Get up. Why are you lying on your face like this? Israel has sinned and broken my covenant. They have stolen some of the things I commanded must be set apart for me. And they have not only stolen them, but have lied about it and hidden the things among their own belongings. That is why the Israelites are running from their enemies in defeat. For now, Israel itself has been set apart for destruction. I will not remain with you any longer unless you destroy the things among you that were set apart for destruction. Get up. Command the people to purify themselves in preparation for tomorrow. For this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. Hidden among you, O Israel, are the things set apart for the Lord. You will never defeat your enemies until you remove these things from among you. In the morning, you must present yourselves by tribes, and the Lord will point out the tribe to which the guilty man belongs. That tribe must come forward with its clans, and the Lord will point out the guilty clan. That clan will then come forward, and the Lord will point out the guilty family. Finally, each member of the guilty family must come forward one by one. The one who has stolen what was set apart for destruction will himself be burned with fire, along with everything he has, for he has broken the covenant of the Lord and has done a horrible thing in Israel. So now 36 men have been killed because you stole something and you kept something that you knew you wasn't supposed to kill. Now, all these that you knew you wasn't supposed to keep. Now these people are going to come one by one, or basically like tribe, then clan, then family, and then each person. And then the person that was guilty, everything he has is going to be burned up. So now this also affects your family. I think it's important to note that we sometimes believe that our sin is our own and our sin has no impact on other people. But it's often the consequences, the results of our sin that has lasting consequences and impacts our family. Verse 16. Early the next morning, Joshua brought the tribes of Israel before the Lord, and the tribe of Judah was singled out. Then the clans of Judah came forward, and the clan of Zerah was singled out. Then the families of Zerah came forward, and the family of Zimri was singled out. Every member of Zimri's family was brought forward person by person, and Achan was singled out. Then Joshua said to Achan, "My son, give glory to the Lord, the God of Israel, by telling the truth. Make your confession and tell me what you have done. Don't hide it from me." Achan replied, "It is true. I have sinned against the Lord, the God of Israel. Among the plunder, I saw a beautiful robe from Babylon, 200 silver coins." I mean, he didn't just take one thing. He took a robe, 200 silver coins, and a bar of gold weighing more than a pound. I wanted them so much that I took them. They are hidden in the ground beneath my tent, with the silver buried deeper than the rest. So Joshua sent some men to make a search. They ran to the tent and found the stolen goods hidden there, just as Achan had said, with the silver buried beneath the rest. They took the things from the tent and brought them to Joshua and all the Israelites. Then they laid them on the ground in the presence of the Lord. Then Joshua and all the Israelites took Achan, the silver, the robe, the bar of gold, his sons, daughters, cattle, donkeys, sheep, goats, tent, and everything he had, and they brought them to the valley of Achor. Then Joshua said to Achan, why have you brought trouble on us? The Lord will now bring trouble on you. And all the Israelites stoned Achan and his family and burned their bodies. They piled a great heap of stones over Achan, which remains to this day. This is why the place has been called the Valley of Trouble ever since. So the Lord was no longer angry. Can I just say that that's rough? And it goes to also show, like, he confessed. I mean, I've read this before, but I'm sure, like, the first time I read it, it's like, okay, he's not going to lie. He's going to confess. There's going to be some grace here. No. God exacted out the punishment that he set forth. Like, no, it's no grace. You're done. You and all your family and everything. I mean, we don't even want the animals. Excuse me. Oh, my goodness. Chapter 8. Then the Lord said to Joshua, do not be afraid or discouraged. Take all your fighting men and attack Ai, for I have given you the king of Ai, his people, his town, and his land. You will destroy them as you destroyed Jericho and its king. But this time you may keep the plunder and the livestock for yourselves. Set an ambush behind the town. So it's not even that the things that he stole wasn't like, it's not even that the things that Achan stole were like somehow bad things to have. It was that he went against what God said. You took something, I told y'all to destroy everything, and you kept stuff you wasn't supposed to keep. And there were things that you were supposed to bring into my treasury. So you actually stole things directly from the Lord. Now they're getting ready to fight Ai. And this time it's like, you know what? And when they've destroyed, what was it? Jericho, is like, sometimes they got to burn everything down. Sometimes they don't. It's all about obedience. Okay. You will destroy them as you destroyed Jericho and its king. But this time you may keep the plunder and the livestock for yourselves. Set an ambush behind the town. And it's crazy too, how like you're right at the cusp of something. He wanted something beautiful. He wanted something valuable. If he had done what the Lord had told him to do, then when it was time for them to go and fight Ai, he would have been able to partake in the plunder. Verse 3. So Joshua and all the fighting men set out to attack Ai. Joshua chose 30,000 of his best warriors and sent them out at night with these orders. Hide and ambush close behind the town and be ready for action. When our main army attacks, the men of Ai will come out to fight as they did before, and we will run away from them. When we will let them chase us until we have drawn them away from the town, for they will say the Israelites are running away from us as they did before. Then, while we are running from them, you will jump up from your ambush and take possession of the town, for the Lord your God will give it to you. Set the town on fire as the Lord has commanded. You have your orders. Just goes to show that depending on what frame of your timeline that you're in, that it can look like you losing. Because they went to fight them, and then he's saying they're going to run away. Somebody could take a snapshot of them running away and report it like, oh, they losing or they're about to lose, right? Verse 9. So they left and went to the place of ambush between Bethel and the west side of Ai. But Joshua remained among the people and camped that night. Early the next morning, Joshua roused his men and started toward Ai, accompanied by the elders of Israel. All the fighting men who were with Joshua marched in front of the town and camped on the north side of Ai, with a valley between them and the town. That night, Joshua sent about 5,000 men to lie in ambush between Bethel and Ai on the west side of the town. So they stationed the main army north of the town and the ambush west of the town. Joshua himself spent the night in the valley. When the king of Ai saw the Israelites across the valley, he and all his army hurried out early in the morning and attacked the Israelites at a place overlooking the Jordan Valley. But he didn't realize there was an ambush behind the town. Joshua and the Israelite army fled toward the wilderness as though they were badly beaten. Then all the men in the town were called out to chase after them. And this way they were lured away from the town. There was not a man left in Ai or Bethel who did not chase after the Israelites, and the town was left wide open. Then the Lord said to Joshua, "Point the spear in your hand toward Ai, for I will hand the town over to you." Joshua did as he was commanded. As soon as Joshua gave the signal, all the men in ambush jumped up from their position and poured into the town. They quickly captured it and set it on fire. When the men of Ai looked behind them, smoke from the town was filling the sky, and they had nowhere to go. For the Israelites who had fled in the direction of the wilderness now turned on their pursuers. When Joshua and all the other Israelites saw that the ambush had succeeded and that smoke was rising from the town, they turned and attacked the men of Ai. Meanwhile, the Israelites who were inside the town came out and attacked the enemy from the rear. So the men of Ai were caught in the middle with Israelite fighters on both sides. Israel attacked them, and not a single person survived or escaped. Only the king of Ai was taken alive and brought to Joshua. When the Israelite army finished chasing and killing all the men of Ai in the open fields, they went back and finished off everyone inside. So the entire population of Ai, including men and women, was wiped out that day, 12,000 in all. For Joshua kept holding out his spear until everyone who had lived in Ai was completely destroyed. Only the livestock and the treasures of the town were not destroyed, for the Israelites kept these as plunder for themselves, as the Lord had commanded Joshua. So Joshua burned the town of Ai, and it became a permanent mound of ruins, desolate to this very day. Joshua impaled the king of Ai on a sharpened pole and left him there until evening. At sunset, the Israelites took down the body as Joshua commanded and threw it in front of the town gate. They piled a great heap of stones over him that can still be seen today. The Lord's covenant renewed, verse 30. Then Joshua built an altar to the Lord, the God of Israel, on Mount Ebal. He followed the commands that Moses, the Lord's servant, had written in the book of instruction. Make me an altar from stones that are uncut and have not been shaped with iron tools. Then on the altar they presented burnt offerings and peace offerings to the Lord. And as the Israelites watched, Joshua copied onto the stones of the altar the instructions Moses had given them. Then all the Israelites, foreigners and native born alike, along with the elders, officers, and judges, were divided into two groups. One group stood in front of Mount Gerizim, the other in front of Mount Ebal. Each group faced the other, and between them stood the Levitical priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant, the Lord's covenant. This was all done according to the commands that Moses, the servant of the Lord, had previously given for blessing the people of Israel. Joshua then read to them all the blessings and curses Moses had written in the book of instruction. Every word of every command that Moses had ever given was read to the entire assembly of Israel, including the women and children and the foreigners who lived among them. Amen. That was really good. Lots of verses that you could certainly glean from, get instruction from. If you've been called to lead and you want to develop as a leader, Joshua is a great book to study. You can get the Book Method Bible Study Journal from boldfaithchurch.org. And you can study the entire book of Joshua, which I strongly recommend, especially if you feel and you know you've been called to lead and you want to develop in godly leadership. Joshua is a great example of what godly leadership looks like. Okay. I hope this blessed you. Go ahead and like the video, subscribe, share, all the things, and then be sure to come back. Maybe bring a friend with you next time. All right. You know what? You could share this. Hit the share button, and then it'll give you a little, what is it called? A little link. So you can click that and get the link, and you can share it on your social media. Share it on Facebook, share it in your text message thread. Okay. Share this. Even if you think people know about it, go ahead and share it anyway. Maybe they forgot. All right. I'll see you next time, 7 a.m. EST, or I'm happy that you are joining us in the replay. All right. Love y'all. Later. Bye.